hymn. Before we get started, take your hymnals with me if you will. Let's turn to 116, sing about God's creation. Yeah, let's go ahead and stand together. We've got a quorum of standers. So 116, This Is My Father's World. This is my Father's world, and to my listening ears all nature sings, and round me rings the music of the spheres. This is my Father's world, I rest me in the thought of rocks and trees, of skies and seas, His hand the wonders wrought. This is my Father's world, the birds their carols raise, the morning light, the lily white, declare their Maker's praise. He shines in all that's fair, in the rustling grass I hear Him pass. He speaks to me everywhere. This is my Father's world. Oh, let me ne'er forget that though the wrong seems oft so strong, God is the ruler yet. This is my Father's world, the battle is not done. Jesus who died will be satisfied, and earth and heaven be one.
Good singing. Let's go ahead and pray, and then you can be seated. Father in heaven, again, we're grateful that we can acknowledge that this is your creation and that this is a world that you have demonstrated that you exist and that you are a God to whom we will give account. And so I pray tonight as we look at a very specific subject that you would help us to see your guidance and creation even in that, and how amazing you are and amazing you have created the things around us. And then, Lord, I pray you'll help us to be reminded that in all of that, you designed for us a perfect Savior so that we could be reconciled with you. And so I thank you for that. We pray for your blessing on our time. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you. You can be seated. And as I mentioned, we're not going to take much time in the opening. We're doing a song and just pretty much getting right into it. We do have a number of people watching by the live stream tonight. I've had several people say they were a little concerned about whether we would have ice or not. And so we have several people that are watching. And if you are watching by the live stream, normally we have the slides at the bottom, and we're not hooked into the system the same way. So you'll have to look at the screen like we're looking at the screen. So it'll be a little bit different on the live stream. All right, I don't think I have anything else that I need to announce or say tonight, so Mike Snavely, you are up, sir.
Insane coming out on a snowy night to hear about spiders. No, actually they are a very unique part of God's creation, and so they are fascinating. Now, to begin a program like this, I have to tell you why I actually got into this, because there were people in Lancaster years ago who wanted me to do a program on spiders, and I didn't think anybody would be interested, and it turns out a whole lot of people were. And as the years went by, people said, you have to make a video of this. So the video that we actually made took 3 years. It's on the back table, and I'll be showing you some clips from the video. There's a lot of stuff. The video has a lot more than I can present here, because it's, some actual video clips from around the world, and it's got a lot of cool stuff in it. So, but I thought I would tell you how I kind of got involved in this. When I was a kid, on our mission station. I was walking along a path one day on our station, and I happened to see a large spider on the ground. Now, it turned out, which I did not know at the time, it turned out it was a baboon spider, which is in the same family as tarantulas. So it was about that size, and it was on the ground. And I remember as a kid, I remember thinking, "Oh, look at that cool thing!" Now it looked like it might be able to bite or sting or whatever. I didn't even know for sure. So I just leaned down, and it didn't run away from me. So I thought, well, what else do you do with a creature like this? You pick it up. So I picked it up, and I thought, cool. Now, of course, my hands are like half that size, So, but anyway, I thought, I know I have to show this to my mom. This is something that every mother wants to see, right? So I walk into the kitchen where my mother is kneading bread. That's how she made her, our bread back then. I walk into the kitchen. I said, "Look, Mom." And she goes, she turns into a carrot. And I go, what? And so she does to me what all of you ladies would probably do to your kids if you saw them carrying something like this. She began to tell me all the horrible stuff, and stuff that she thought about it. And she goes, "Don't you know that it has fangs?" What's a fang? Don't you know that it has venom? Don't you know that it can bite and inject venom? Don't you know that people have died from spider bites? And of course, every time she hits me with something, I'm going, they can? They will? They do? I suddenly realize I'm carrying death in my hands, I wasn't, because it's only a baboon spider. But anyway, she's lucky I didn't go, just drop the thing. Then she had this big monster running around the kitchen floor. So I took the thing back outside, just kind of very carefully, and just let it go, or I don't even remember what I did. I thought, maybe that's better. Maybe that's not something I should just be going around picking up. So I didn't. A couple of years later, maybe a year or so later, we're playing hide and seek. Now, you guys know the game of hide and seek. So there was a guy who was it. And I went up behind the garage where our hospital kept our Land Rovers. Those were our ambulances. So I went up behind the garage, and behind this garage system, there was a big fenced-in area with old hospital equipment. There were weeds growing in there and stuff. We weren't allowed to go in there because of snakes that lived in there. But right at the back corner of the garage, the big fence that housed all that stuff was about a foot in from the back corner. So I thought, perfect hiding spot. So I went around the corner and backed in against the fence. So the corner of the back corner of the garage is right here, and I could peek around like that to see where the guy who was it was, right? Ha ha ha! They can't see me. So I was looking like this around the corner, and I thought, where's the guy who is it? So I kept looking, pulling on my hair like this, and I thought, I wonder where the guy is, and I did not realize that I was standing against the bottom rungs of a giant golden orb weaving spider's web. These spiders are huge, and they make a very large web, and in fact, it's golden color. In fact, that's why it's called the golden orb weaving web. The golden orb weaver spider. And it actually even has an odor to it. You can actually even smell it. So I did not realize, because I hadn't even looked, that when I backed into that fence, I had put my head into the bottom rungs of a golden orb weaver. Now, her web is much bigger than that screen even, much bigger, like half the size of that wall. Now, she's sitting in the web looking like this. And she's sitting up there. Now, understand something about a weaving spider. They have very poor eyesight. This kind of spider has very poor eyesight. All they can see is kind of light and dark, and they can sometimes see movement if it's right in front of them, but that's it. They rely on vibrations in the web. So they spin their web, they sit in it, and when a creature gets caught, the creature, struggles, and they feel the vibrations in the web, and they come running down to see what there is. And they can tell by how strong the vibrations are if they're able to spin a net of web over it and subdue the prey so they can sting it and subdue it. If it's too big, or if they sense it's not something they want, they have the ability to cut it out and the creature will fall away. So I had no idea that I had put my head into the bottom rungs of a golden orb weaver's web. Every time I was looking around the corner to see where the guy whose it is, I'm pulling on the web. She thinks there's something caught in there. So what does she do by instinct? She comes running down to investigate. So while I'm thinking, where's the guy who's it, I feel this tickling on my head like this. So what do? I look up into the face of this big monster. Oh my word, I go running out of there. Ah! Of course, there's the guy who's it. I see, Mike, I didn't care about the dumb game anymore. I'm now running to save my life, from the big monster. So I began to have I began to fear spiders. I began to have nightmares about spiders, after that. Well, as time went on, I sort of left the subject alone, although there were many other spider stories that I could tell you. But now the years pass, and I'm in college in northern Minnesota. Yeah, it was kind of a strange thing to go from South Africa to northern Minnesota. Very different climate and everything. But I just happened to have a professor who had been a missionary in Brazil. So since he had been in a foreign country like that, he and I had a lot in common. We like to exchange stories. One day I was sitting in his office, and he began to tell me about a story that happened to him. And he said, once a year we would go into the jungle from the city where he was to this mission station that their mission had, and on the mission station, they had a little place for him to sleep. It was like a professionally built little hut. Professionally built walls, nice concrete floor, nice. It didn't have any electricity or any running water, but that's okay. They had candles and they had a basin of water. And then he would go there for a week every year to teach a doctrine class to the people on that mission station. So one night, his wife was already in bed. And he went around the corner to blow out the lamp. Now, as he blew out the lamp, now it's pitch black. As he blew out the lamp, he thought he saw a movement on the floor on his wife's side of the bed. And so now he's in the pitch black, and he thought, was that actually something that moved, or was that in my imagination, or was my hand making a shadow, on the candle? He thought, I better relight the candle just to be sure. So he relights the candle, carries it around the corner of the bed, and there on the floor was one of these. This is life size. This is the largest spider in the world. It's called a Goliath tarantula, otherwise known as the bird-eating spider, because it can actually catch birds. It's a very big spider. And there's one of these sitting on the floor. And I remember saying to him, wait, how big was it? And he said, it was as big as a dinner plate. Do you know I do not remember the rest of his story? Because in my mind I'm going, as big as a dinner plate? What do you do to kill a guy like that? I mean, the spiders that you and I see in our house, what do we do? Go get the fly swatter and whap it and go pick it up and throw it in the toilet and flush it, give it a burial at sea, right? What do you do with a guy like this? You get a fly swatter and go whap, he'll go and jump at you and have you for supper, No, you got to go get a bazooka and blow the thing up. And then you got to go get a wheelbarrow and a shovel and clean up all the guts. I mean, what do you do to get rid of a creature like that? I had no idea that spiders were that big. Largest spider in the world. Now, I was telling that story to a large group of senior citizens in Pennsylvania one time, and the guy puts up his hand and says, can I tell my story about one of those spiders? And I said, oh, please, by all means. I've never known anybody other than this professor of mine who saw one of these. He said, no, I saw one, and I experienced one in this nation. Here he was a World War II vet, and this is right around the time of the D-Day invasions of Normandy. And he was one of those soldiers who was already married and already had children, so they were more hesitant to send those people out on the front lines. So he was held back, and he was still at his base in Florida. So Florida's, hot, humid area, kind of like where these guys are from. And he was on his base one day, and his wife was in the living room, sitting on the couch, feeding the baby. Everything was quiet. But while she's feeding the baby, she had some sixth sense that she was being watched. So she looks around and doesn't see anybody. She turns and looks behind her, and there's one of these things sitting on the wall behind her. She just screamed, he grabbed the baby, went running out of the house. Her husband heard her screaming, and he comes running up. He goes, what? And she goes, well, men don't know what means. So he went running into the house and looked and saw the thing on the wall and went, you know. I said, what did you do? And he goes, well, I got this weird idea. It's amazing what you think to do in a traumatic moment. He went and got a broom. Well, instead of using the broom end to do anything, he got the crazy idea that he'll turn the broom around and try to use the handle as a spear or as a sword instead of using the wide end to kind of crush the thing. So he says he got this broom with a handle end, and he began to creep up closer and closer to the spider, and he suddenly realized, man, how short a broom handle is when you have to get that close to a monster like this. So he got up close like this, and suddenly he went to try to spear the thing, and then it jumped at him. I said, oh man, what happened then? He goes, well, that would be really comical to recreate. And we actually did recreate it for our spider video. And if you look at this spider, his legs are back on with electrical tape because there's a tiny hole drilled into the abdomen right there, and we fastened him to the wall with a little pin thing, and we put invisible line coming back. So every time we tried to reenact it, we tried to pull the line to get the spider to jump right at the camera lens. It took so many times for the spider to hit the lens, indicating the guy jumping at the guy's eyes, that it kept landing on the floor and its legs kept breaking off. So anyway, this is the spider we used in that video. Now, when the guy told us that, he said this would have made a funny video because I was all over the place with that broom handle. Bam, 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 bam. There went the lamp. There went this, bam, 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 until he finally was able to get the spider. So the guy said, oh man, eventually I got it. And he said, I had never known. How did the thing get in here to the United States? Probably came over as a baby on a banana boat somehow, got into a grocery store, crawled out, and eventually wound up on the base, and eventually wound up in the guy's house. Well, that's a brief intro to the spiders. And so I'll tell you some scary spider stories. Before I go any further, let me just mention some videos that we have, because I don't think I've actually even touched on any of this earlier. So let me just tell you a little bit about what's out on the table. The videos you see here, you can see some that look one way and the bottom ones look another way. That's because the top ones were our original videos that we made on all these topics, but they were live seminar versions. The bottom three you can see are called the Creation Safari series. We finished 4 of them. That's those 4 that you see on the table there. We just finished the Ancient Civilizations one. We just haven't produced it yet. That's 5. And we're working on the Hunters and Hunted, which is a series I'm doing in the morning for the kids in the school here. Those are the videos we have in that series. The ones that are called The Adventures of Ranger Mike are similar topics, but they're all designed for kids from 4 to 12, and they're all designed to teach your kids things from Genesis 1 through 12, and with a wildlife theme, a wildlife background, and so forth. So that's what these are. They're biblically based, they're creation-centered, and they all have wildlife in them, but there's basically teachings from Genesis all through there. There's always anti-evolution stuff in all of these as well. And we produce DVDs because we're going to a streaming platform, but we do produce DVDs because they are shareable, and that's the main reason. People love to share these all over, and so you can share a DVD, whereas you can't share a stream or a download. If any of you are interested in our Tuesday emails that go out every Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock, there's a sign-up sheet there. And by the way, if you're interested in any of our materials, they're going to be available tonight after the session and at the beginning of the session tomorrow night. During the session tomorrow night, my wife is going to be taking it down because I have a doctor appointment for my surgery I have a doctor appointment first thing Wednesday morning, so we have to leave Tuesday night. So she's going to be taking everything down during the session. So if you're interested in anything, tonight or tomorrow before the session begins. All right, so how many of you have ever walked into a spider web? Okay, we've all walked into a spider web, but even though you don't like the sticky feel of it, what's the main thing? You're not so much worried about the spider web. What are you thinking about? Where's the spider? Exactly, where is the spider? Well, while we're at it though, before we kind of jump into it, I want to show you a close-up of these guys. Aren't they cute? I mean, these are the face of the spiders. By the way, one of these creatures is not a spider. Can you guess which one? You probably can't. Maybe you can. It's the one in the lower left. Even though it has all the characteristics seemingly of a spider, it's not one. And I'll talk about that one in a moment though. But these are the ogres of the spiders. Now, the ogre part of spiders is not meant for you. It's meant for the bugs that they catch. Here's an interesting statistic about spiders. I talked with the head of the Berkey Institute in Washington, in Washington State. He's considered the topmost spider expert in the world. If you tally up all the people who have died from a known spider bite, not they think it might have been, or it might have been a spider, a known spider bite. Here's a spider, it bit the person, they died from that venom. They can prove that. In all of recorded history, not only of this nation, but in all of recorded history, in every nation, anywhere around the world, and for all time, the only number of people that have ever died from a known spider bite might be a total of 83 people. And most of those have been either very young or allergic to it or very old or already sick. They are not as deadly as we think. And this is not just per year, that's for all time. So spiders are not as anywhere near as dangerous. Even some of the nasty ones, like the Brazilian wandering spider and some of those other guys, they're nasty and you might get sick. But in all likelihood, you're not going to die from it. So what we want to do is have a look at spiders. While we're looking at this, I'm going to give you a little brief anatomy lesson of a spider. When you think about our bodies, you have a head. So the head of a spider is at the top of the cephalothorax. Spiders have two body parts, cephalothorax and abdomen. We have a head. The head of the spider is at the end of the cephalothorax. Then here's our heart in the middle. So you'd think the spider heart would be there. It's not. It's across the top of the abdomen. A spider heart is pumping blood throughout the body exactly like a hydraulic pump pumps oil through machines that do digging and all that. If you literally kill a spider, it stops the heart. And what happens when you kill a spider? It curls up. Why does it curl up? Because that's the natural feel of the spider, the natural look. It's the same thing with your hand. If you relax your hand, your fingers are bent. It takes energy to hold your hand straight. When you go to sleep, or if you die, your fingers go like this. Same thing with a spider. The only reason its legs are out is because the hydraulic pressure coming from the heart keeps the legs out. You kill a spider, the heart stops, the legs just fold up. And that's why they fold up. Now, our stomach is down here. So you would think the spider stomach would be down here. The spider stomach is up there. And on the bottom of the cephalothorax is where all the legs connect to it. So that is where the locomotion system comes from. In the abdomen of the spider is also where the ovaries are, it's where the gut is, and on the bottom of a spider is where the lungs are. You'd think the lungs would be up here. They're up here with us. They're not. They're down here. Different spiders have different kinds of lungs. There's two different kinds of lungs on a spider. And it depends on what God intended that spider to do. If the spider just is designed to sit and wait for its prey and is not very active, it has a very passive type of lung situation where the air and the gases exchange. But if it's an active spider, it has a different type of lung that actively pulls in oxygen very quickly and allows the spider to breathe much quicker. But it's amazing, two different types of lungs. Well, that is a very quick anatomy lesson of a spider. But let's have a look a little further. Let's kind of jump into their world and have a look at how amazing these guys actually are. First of all, what is a spider? A spider is defined essentially by four things. Number one, it is an arachnid. An arachnid is any creature with 8 legs. So therefore, this creature, do you know what that thing is? What is it? A scorpion. It has 8 legs, just like a spider. But it's not a spider because of the next thing. All spiders have 2 body parts. A scorpion only has 1 body part, so suddenly it's not a spider. Also, all spiders produce venom. All spiders produce venom. That is how they subdue their prey. If you go into the woods and you see those daddy long legs running on trees, they're not even spiders. They only have 1 body part and they have no venom. So they're not even spiders. Those are called harvestmen. But anyway, they produce venom. All spiders produce silk. They don't all produce silk to make a web, but all spiders produce silk because they use silk for different things. A spider like this does not catch creatures using a web, but it spins silk to line its burrow, to wrap its eggs around, and so forth. But spiders have about 6 different types of silk that they can spin. If they're going to spin a web, the anchor lines of the web is the strongest substance known to man until about 10 years ago when they found the tooth of some sea creature to be stronger than that, whatever it was, I don't know. But up to that point, the spider silk, anchor line silk, is the strongest substance known to man. It's much stronger than steel, and it's much more stretchy than steel. Anyway, that's one thing. A spider can also make the lines that go from the middle of his web out to the edge. That's a different kind of silk. Then it can produce a very thin type of silk onto which it adds glue. That's what makes the creature stick to it. Also, a spider can spin a very thin sheet of web, like a sheet or a flag. And that's what the spider will do when it wants to wrap up a creature. It will use its back legs, pull the silk out of the spinnerets, and chemically the structure is a sheet instead of a string. And it will spin a sheet and just wrap the creature around a sheet of this. And it will subdue it with sheet after sheet after sheet of this silk. Or it can spin a very, very soft cotton-like material into which it places its eggs. And that's very, very soft, like cotton. And by the way, as long as we're talking about silk, spider silk is fully recyclable to the spider. A spider can eat its own silk and it's fully recyclable. So if you watch, especially in the fall, we don't have spiders out yet, but especially in the fall when the spiders have gotten bigger and you can actually watch them, watch those webs around your house. You'll see them. Sometimes they'll come out in the daytime. It's usually rare. They'll usually come out at dusk or at nighttime, and they're spinning their web because they want to catch creatures at night. If you look at that web in the morning, it's damaged because of the creatures that got caught in the web that night. But you typically won't see the spider in the web anymore. Where's the spider? If you look around, you will almost always find it hiding somewhere near you, near the web. At dusk, it will come out and eat its web again. Sometimes it lets the anchor lines. If it knows that's a good position, it'll let the anchor lines. But it will eat most of the web and then respin it. It's fully recyclable to the spider. So it's astonishing stuff, web silk is. Now, these 4 things determine what a spider is. So now let me show you a creature that you have heard about. And that's not a spider. That was the one in the lower left corner. Do you know what that thing is? It is the famous camel spider that you heard about during the Iraq War. This is not a spider at all, even though it looks exactly like one, and I don't want to get bitten by one. I grew up with these things. We used to call them ground spiders, and they can get as big as your hand. They cannot produce any venom. They are not poison. They're not venomous at all. There's no venom, and they cannot spin any kind of silk. So they are not a spider. But if you look at that guy, I don't care if it's a spider or not. It looks like a spider. But notice those jaws. They cannot inject you with anything, but they can shred your finger. We used to catch the big ones and put them in a bottle. And sometimes we'd take a stick just to see what the jaws can do. Now you can look at that. Look at it's four pairs of jaws, and look how hard they are. If you put your finger in there, yeah, you don't want to do that. So we would take a stick and drop it into the bottle just to see what this thing would do. It would grab the stick and just snap it. And I thought, oh, whoa! The jaws are like twice the size of its head. So then what we would do is we'd go out to the garden and catch these huge grasshoppers which eat through our crops. We catch one of these grasshoppers, and they're big. They're like 3 or 4 inches long. We take them, especially this one, I took the lid, and there's one of these things sitting on the bottom of the bottle. Took off the lid, dropped the grasshopper in, closed the lid. As soon as this sulfuchid, that's what they're called, as soon as it saw that thing, it grabbed it and just like snapped it in half and just shredded the grasshopper. So that's how strong their jaws are. So you don't really want to get your finger there. Anyway, this is the famous camel spider. It's nothing near of what you thought they were. So let's have a look at a couple different types of spiders. The types of spiders, there's basically 3 different types. There's the type in the upper left corner with a large abdomen. Why do they have a large abdomen? Because this is where the web factory is. And that kind of spider makes a big web in order to catch prey. So they need their silk as part of their daily exercise for catching prey. So they need a large web factory, and that's why they have a large abdomen at the back. And they have very, very poor eyesight. They can hardly see anything at all. The one in the foreground in the lower right is a spider that would be considered like a jumping spider or a tarantula. These guys have much better eyesight, but they have a very small abdomen compared to the body because they do not use their silk for catching prey. They basically only use it. All spiders, when they walk, any type of spider, when they walk, they're always laying a line. Watch any spider, it's always spinning when it walks. That way, if it reaches the end of a table or something and it wants to go down, it'll go down slowly because it's letting itself down on the line. If it needs to suddenly make a retreat, like if there's something dangerous down there, it can run right back up that line. So spiders are always spinning silk when they walk. And it's usually their lifeline when they need to escape. By the way, this is why in your houses, when you have to clean out cobwebs or when you clean up you run your broom or whatever over the corner of your ceilings, there's always spider silk there because these little tiny house spiders, little yellow ones that get in your house, as they walk along, they're always spinning silk. And so your houses eventually have silk all over them because the spiders are spinning it all the time. Then there's a third type of spider, which I call the waiting spiders. Those are the ones that just basically, they just sit and wait, like a trapdoor spider. A trapdoor spider has a little door. It opens, it lives in a hole, and it closes the door, and it's camouflaged, and it lays little web outside like this, and if a creature trips over it, the spider feels the vibration. It'll come up, open the door, grab the prey, go back down, and then down it goes. But they just wait for their prey. Another type of spider like that is a crab spider. Those are the incredible ones that can match a flower's color. They can sit right in the middle of a flower and wait. And a fly or a butterfly or whatever will come to the flower, not even know there's a spider there. And sometimes the spider will just start weaving as the bee or whatever it is getting the nectar or whatever. The spider is just slowly weaving a silk around it. And by the time the creature wants to fly away, it can't. And the spider just keeps weaving and weaving. It operates very slowly, typically. A crab spider does. So there's basically 3 types of spiders. And that's how they catch their prey. Now, there are creatures all around us that are not spiders, but they do have 8 legs. Some people have said, there's always a spider within 3 feet of you, including right now. Well, there might be in the summertime. But in the wintertime, there's not going to be a spider within 3 feet of you, but you are very close to arachnids like these. These are literally living on you right now. These are dust mites. And you can't get away from them. In fact, people go, that is living on me? Oh yeah, you have them all over you. And that's a close-up of their mouth. That shows what they look like while they munch and crunch on the dead skin cells on your skin. And some people, like one lady said, oh, that's horrible. I'm going to go take a hot shower. Oh, they love that. They like that warm water. Now, this is called a dust mite, and you all have them. But ladies especially, I want to show you what is living on your eyelashes right now. Eyelash mites. They look like this when they're young. They look like little worms. Notice only 3 legs per side. When they're adults, they still look like worms, but now they have 4 legs per side, and they're colored like this. These are tiny. They're colored like this so you can actually see them. They're not green like that. They're actually clear. They're tiny things. But in this last picture, I know you're going to love this. This looks like dry leaves. And those are not dry leaves. These are skin cells on the surface of your skin. This green thing is not a tree growing out of the ground. This is a tiny hair at the very edge of your eye. These colored in blue are 3 of these mites stuffed into the follicle, munching and crunching at the root of your eyelashes. Don't you feel nice and clean now? 3/4 of you have them. 3/4 of all human beings have them on their eyelashes. And I am not going to go around trying to figure out who has them. 3/4 of you have them already. Don't you just feel nice and clean now? All right. So arachnids are living on you. But let me show you some interesting things about spiders. They do not grow like you and I do. They have an exoskeleton, which means that their body shape does not come from from bones like ours comes from bones inside us. That's how we get our shape. But a creature with an exoskeleton has no bones. The skeleton is essentially the shell on the outside. So when a spider grows, the shell does not grow. The shell has to be opened up. The shell has to be discarded, so the spider inside can grow. So what will happen is when a spider grows, it will shed its old skin, which is that what's in that red box there. Here is a spider pulling itself out. When the spider pulls itself out of that old skin, it is very, very vulnerable. You can see one in our spider video. A tarantula pulls himself out, and all they do is just sit there and shake because they can't do anything. They're completely vulnerable. But then as their exoskeleton hardens and grows, then they become more able to move around and start to do whatever a spider does. Interestingly, a spider can lose its legs every now and then through whatever. A creature can attack it or whatever happens. A spider can lose its legs. When it goes through a molt like this, it will have all 8 legs again. Isn't that weird? All 8 legs again. Now we knew that because there was a big spider, about maybe a third the size of this one, that lived on our porch for a few weeks on our mission station. And we just let it there because we could see where it wasn't bothering us, and we were fascinated by watching it. So every now and then we'd catch a grasshopper, and when we'd go by it, we'd throw the grasshopper into the nest, into her web, and she'd come running down and get it. But she only had 5 legs. One day we noticed that she had not rebuilt her web. It was left discarded, it was left damaged, so we thought she died. So a day later, still that same way, we thought, well, she must have died. So we cleaned out the web and it was gone. No, a day after that, there she was again, out in the garden about 5 feet away. There was like a little pathway between our porch and the garden. There she was in the garden with a big web again, and there she had all 8 legs. So it's astonishing how that works. So the spider has to molt. Spiders come in a variety of colors too. In nature, a creature that has bright or contrasting colors on them typically is a signal to other creatures, don't eat me, I'm poisonous. Now think about this for a moment. Let's just pretend that there's a bird that likes to eat spiders. It's part of its diet. But the bird, in looking at a brightly colored spider like this, will know by instinct. This is what I was teaching the kids this morning in the chapel. Animals operate by instinct. The birds will know by instinct, don't eat that one with the bright yellow or bright red. The bird does not know what poison is. The bird does not know what dying means. You see how incredible this is? Instinct is incredible. Instinct serves the creature. It helps it to stay alive in its environment. The bird has no idea why you don't eat a creature with bright red or bright yellow or whatever the color it is. They have no idea why. But you and I, who can see and reason and think through the creation, can say, oh wow, the bird won't eat that one because it has poison in it, and if the bird eats it, it will die. But the bird can't have any idea what poison is or even know what dying means. See how incredible this creation is. So, spiders come in a variety of colors and shapes and sizes. And here's the trapdoor spider. Now the trapdoor will she'll build a web, and any spider that lives in the ground, they typically line their hole with web to make, it's like making your bed, and it's a nice soft little hole they can live in. And then she will cover that hole with a trapdoor so it's camouflage. But you can see all around the hole, she'll have all these little lines that go out from the side. So when a creature like a grasshopper, like this one right here, comes by, it will trip on that line or step on the line. The spider will feel the vibration, open up the door and say, "Hi, welcome to supper. By the way, you're it." Grab the creature and down it goes. Now, there's a very cool little section of our video that shows a little roly-poly. You know what roly-polies are? Well, everybody calls them roly-polies. They're called ball millipedes. They live underneath rocks. If you take one out and touch them, they roll into a hard little ball. You've seen that, okay? There's a little roly-poly walking along, and he trips the trigger of a trapdoor spider. Instantly, the door opens, spider comes out, grabs the roly-poly, down it goes, trapdoor closes. Oh, poor little roly-poly, it's all gone now. Next thing you know, trapdoor opens, spider comes out, spits the thing out, it goes rolling away, spider goes back down the hole, closes the door, the little roly-poly unwinds and keeps walking. They both operated on their instinct. The spider felt the vibration, opened the door, grabbed the thing that was making the vibration, pulled it down in. That's what its instinct tells it to do. For its part, the roly-poly, when it suddenly picked up, it goes, whoa, what's happening? It rolled into a ball. The spider could not get its fangs through that hard shell, so the spider goes, "What in the world do I have here? I can't get this thing. I don't want this." It opens the door, throws it away, and goes down, and the roly-poly unwinds and keeps walking. It's a very cool little video clip. Anyway, that's how these guys operate. Watch this one. This is called a bolus spider. This one has a large abdomen because it makes a web with which to catch prey, but it doesn't make an orb web. It puts its energy into making a line that it can hang from, and then it will spin a line where you can see right there, and it has a little ball at the end. That ball is a big blob of goo. This spider will now attract a moth to it. When the moth flies around and round and round the spider will see the moth, it will begin to spin his bolus around and throw it at the moth, so it sticks in the moth, it pulls it in and eats it. Now watch, I have a few clips from the video I want to show you. Here's a bolus spider. She is eating her web from the night before. She's getting rid of any extra lines that were there. She's redoing it all. She's hanging from the anchor lines that she spun the night before. And now what she's going to do is she's going to get ready to spin a new bolus. But before she does that, she has to finish eating the old web. She's even going to turn around and she's going to eat the old bolus. She's going to actually pull it up, and there she's pulling up the bolus, even the glue and all. Remember, it's all recyclable to her. The web factory that she has in her abdomen, all the chemicals that make up the enzymes that make the silk, all of the things that make up the glue, they will all go back into their factory elements. Then she will turn around. Now notice, she's blind. She's not even watching what she's doing, but she knows by instinct exactly what to do. She'll spin a brand new bolus. She knows exactly how much silk to extrude, how to make it strong, and how much glue to add. As she's doing this, she'll cut the line when she knows she's finished, and all that glue will begin to slide down and make one big blob of goo on the bottom. And then she tries it out. And then now she lures the moth. The moth comes, she throws it at the moth, and when it sticks to the moth, she's able to pull it in and she's caught her prey. Now, if you were listening to that, you might say, wait. Did you say that she actually lures the moth? Yes. She lures the moth. How does a spider lure a moth? Because when you look at an orb web of a spider, the spider just sits in there and waits. And by chance, a bug flies along, or if it's near light, the bug is going to come and stick on there, and then she feels the vibration, she goes down and grabs it. This one does not make a web like that. It has to lure a moth. But how does it lure a moth? Here's how. This is absolutely ingenious. There's moths that live in this area where this spider lives. There is a male species of a moth that has a little organ at the end of its nose. The female gives off a pheromone, which is like perfume. It gives off this pheromone. Of course, you and I can't smell it at all, but it's very distinctive to the moth species. The male, that little organ on the end of its nose, can only smell, if you make a hamburger, it cannot smell a hamburger. You blow cigarette smoke on it, it can't smell cigarette smoke. The only thing it can smell is the female pheromone coming from the female moth. So that pheromone comes by, he senses it, he takes off and flies over to where he finds the female giving off the pheromone. But here's the genius of it. This spider can make the female moth pheromone. How does that happen? By random chance, which is what we're told happened. It's all just an accident, all just random evolution. The spider makes the female moth pheromone. As soon as the male moth flies around looking for the female, the spider sees it and throws his bolus at it. Now it even gets weirder, because scientists have discovered that if the spider does not catch a moth, maybe after a couple nights, the spider will realize maybe there's no male of that species. It doesn't think through that, it just knows it can't get food. So guess what the spider can do? It can switch to a different species of moth. Switch the pheromone to a different species of moth. And then that male will come looking for a female. That is incredible. That's just what one spider can do. Let me show you another one. This is called the ogre face spider, or otherwise known as the net caster. I'll show you why in a moment it's called the ogre face. This one is a little bit like the bolus spider in that it hangs down, doesn't make an orb web. But this one, rather than a bolus, this one makes a very stretchy web that it hangs onto with 4 feet at the front, and its back 4 legs, it hangs onto its anchor line. And it has very good eyesight. In fact, at night, this spider has one of the best eyesights in the animal kingdom. Some scientists think that this spider can see even better than an owl at night, which is incredible. Now, I have no idea if that's true, but it has one of the best eyesights in the animal kingdom. If you were the bug looking up at the creature, that's what you would see. Spiders have 8 eyes, but the 2 main eyes can see incredibly at night. Now, if you think that is weird, let me tell you what happens to this spider in a day's cycle, which is nothing short of miraculous. A spider cannot close its eyes. Snakes have no eyelids, lizards do. Snakes cannot protect their eyes that way. That's why a snake has scales all over its body that includes a scale over its eye, and that's how its eye gets protected. A spider has no scale, has no scale over its eyes, and has no eyelids. These are very big lenses compared to the spider. But this spider, in order to see well, it develops a membrane at the back of the retina so that when the lens pulls in an image, that substance that grows at the back, that membrane that grows back there, is so light sensitive that it can see probably even better than an owl. And it can see very well in the black of night. But the moment the sun rises in the daytime, remember the spider cannot close its eye. As soon as the rays of the sun come up and go through that lens, it completely destroys that membrane. And the membrane is gone, the spider is 100% blind. Until the sun goes down. When the sun goes down and it gets dark again, the spider will grow a brand new membrane. That is astonishing to me. It'll grow a brand new membrane, which gives it the best eyesight in the animal kingdom, or one of the best eyesights. So watch. This spider, like the bolus spider, it's not watching what it's doing. It's blind, at least to what it's doing here. It knows instinctively exactly what it's doing. It doesn't need to watch it. It knows exactly how much silk to extrude. It knows exactly which chemicals to do to make it stretchy. It knows exactly how to put it together into a stretchy web. When she's finally finished making this little stretchy web, she'll turn around and try it out. Spiders have little hooks at the end of their feet to keep them from getting caught in their own web. So this spider's trying it out. Watch her feet just keep slipping off, but she's trying it out. And now once she's tried it out, she'll stretch it out. Okay, now she's satisfied that it's working. Now her eyesight, she's watching for a bug. Now a bug comes running beneath her. She spots it with that incredible eyesight, drops down on the bug, pulls it up, gives it a good shake, and now the creature's thoroughly caught. That's incredible. Now when you think about a spider like this, a lot of times guys make completely unique webs. But when you might say, well, how does a spider know where to make an orb web? How does a spider know that? Well, here's what they do. They wait for a little breeze. They spin a little bit of silk, and the breeze will catch the silk. It'll sail across and stick to something. When it sticks to it, the spider will cross over, strengthen it, go back and forth, and make a very strong anchor line. When it has made the anchor line, it'll make the radial lines from the middle going out to the edge. And eventually, when she has that whole skeleton finished, she will start to lay the silk round and round and round like this with the sticky part. Now watch what she's doing. She has 8 legs and is using every one of the legs to do her silk. Every one of them is either holding on to a line or it's extruding the silk out and sticking it right to where it needs. And she's completely blind. She has no idea. She's not watching what she's doing. But by instinct, she's making this thing perfectly. All nicely symmetrical. It's perfect. And then when she's done with it, she'll sit in the middle. And by the way, spiders like this always sit in their web face down. They don't sit like this. They sit with their head down. And now she's sitting in her web waiting for something to come in, or waiting for a little kid to come and put their head in the web so she can come down and eat that kid. Anyway, you know what this creature is, right? Why am I showing you a pelican when we're talking about spiders? Well, look at this spider. It's called the pelican spider. I wonder why. But look at this spider. This is weird. Here is the spider's abdomen. This is the cephalothorax. It's way up. And these long things here are its fangs. Now, if you look at most spiders, look at the average spider here on the left, a little jumping spider. You see the abdomen, see the cephalothorax, and the fangs are little things at the front. Now look at the one on the right, which is the body of this pelican spider. Abdomen at the back, cephalothorax stands way up high, and it has long fangs. Why does this spider have very long fangs? It's because of the prey that it catches. This spider only eats other spiders. That's its only prey. But it knows instinctively that those spiders have venom too and can attack it if it catches them. So God has given these guys long fangs so that when they catch another spider, they can hold it at the end of their fang until the creature is pumped full of venom and they die. But here's how they work. This spider, remember I told you earlier that anytime a spider is walking, it's laying silk, right? Anytime a spider is walking, it's laying silk. So when you see a spider that has built an orb web, in order to get to that area where it built its web, it had to come from somewhere. Where it came from, it was laying a web. It was laying a little line of silk. This spider will walk through the woods looking for that spider silk, that little thread that a spider spun. And it will follow that line. It will follow that line until it gets to the edge of a web. And it will sense that the web is right there. It'll get all ready and use one of its long legs to start plucking the web. When it plucks the web, the spider in the web comes running down to see what's there, and then the spider nabs it. Sticks it with its own long fang that this spider has no way of attacking that guy back, and it will literally hold it at its fang length. We say arm length? No, this is fang length. Isn't the world of bugs weird? Aren't you glad you're not a bug getting caught like that? Anyway, there's some very strange spiders out there. Well, some of them are very interesting because some of them, like the diving bell spider, can live underwater. These guys can stick their abdomen out of the water for a moment, catch a bunch of air around the abdomen, around the hair, and then go underneath again and scoot that oxygen into a little thing that it spins underneath. And then that spider can live underwater and can literally go out and catch creatures because, remember, the lungs are there. So as long as that has oxygen trapped around it, that spider can leave, go swimming around, and catch food that lives underwater. And yet itself is completely defended against any creature that would want to eat it because it lives underwater. Amazing. Well, when we think of spiders, we often think of tarantulas. But did you know that tarantulas come in a huge variety of colors? These are all different tarantula species found around the world. I never knew till I did this program years and years ago, back in the later 90s. I had no idea there were this many tarantulas. A guy in England sent me all these pictures because he says, I breed them all. I don't like spiders at all, but I sell them. And he says, so I'm fascinated with their color. So he gave me a bunch of these pictures of the spiders that he breeds. Now, when you look at the hair of a spider like this, people go, ooh, look at that big, ugly, hairy spider. Well, wait, let's stop and talk about that hair for a moment. Spiders have no ears. They cannot hear. Yet you are hearing me because I'm speaking into the air and I'm vibrating the air, and you have an incredible ear structure that allows you to have vibrations in your ear, and you can hear me because you have ears. The spider does not have ears, but sound waves will also vibrate the spider hair and communicate something to the spider. Even though it cannot physically hear it, the vibrations give it the same sense of hearing. And so that's one thing that spider hair is used for. Another thing it's used for is protection. If you irritate a spider like that, it can pull out its hair and throw it at you. What does that do? If the hair gets on you, it'll itch. If you breathe it, you'll start coughing. It's actually a defense for the spider. So the spider hair has specific purpose. But look at all the, a cobalt blue spider. Come on, ladies. How about a teal spider with even little pink booties? How cool is that spider? How about this one? This one just looks like a slipper. It's only about 6 inches long, so you wouldn't need to be afraid of it. Now, let me show you a spider that is actually quite cute. If a spider can be considered cute, it's the little tiny jumping spiders. Up across the border, we would have them here too. The biggest one we have in Pennsylvania is this one, and they get to be about 1/2 inch long. These guys, if anything can be called, a spider can be called cute, it's these guys. You put your finger down, they'll jump on, jump off. They have very, very good eyesight. Well, these spiders also can do something astounding. These spiders have such good eyesight that when you see a bug flying around, like a mosquito or fly does, if there is a jumping spider in the area, it will see it. And it will have one thing on its mind: food. Now, this spider will also do the same thing as a quarterback. When a quarterback gets the ball and wants to throw it to a receiver, and the receiver's running across the field, does the quarterback throw it right at the receiver? No, the quarterback has to make instant calculations. Think of the calculations a quarterback needs to do. He needs to throw it in front. He needs to calculate the speed of the receiver, throw the ball in front of the receiver so the ball gets to the receiver by the time the receiver gets there. He also has to throw it, he has to use enough energy for the ball to get there. He also has to throw it above the guys who want to knock it down. So he has to calculate all that stuff just in a second. The spider does exactly the same thing. The spider will calculate everything it's doing, come up with its little calculations, and then watch that bug moving along, and then time his jump perfectly. And when he does, he'll land right on the bug right when he's calculated he's going to do this. We put this to a test when we used to have storm windows in our former house. We'd catch one of these spiders, put them in there, and then catch flies. They never missed. It was amazing to watch them. So those spiders are amazing. There are some spiders that look like things that they're not. This doesn't look like a spider at all. It looks like an ant, because an ant has a head, a thorax, and an abdomen. Spiders don't have that, but this is a spider. God has put a little clever constriction right there, making it look like 2 body parts. It's not. It's 1 body part. And by the way, this spider will take its front pair of legs, and move them around just like the ant moves its antenna. But the spider has never seen the ant. So how does it know to move its front legs around like the ant moves its antenna? It's incredible how it works. There's a little clip in our video that shows that as well. And some of them look like little bumps on the log. Some of them look like bird droppings. This is a crab spider who in the daytime, any bird would love to eat that spider, but in the daytime it'll spin a little bit of web on a leaf, sit down in the middle of it and sit quietly. As long as it does that, hardly anything will eat it because it looks like a bird dropping. Now the spider doesn't know what a bird is. The spider doesn't know anything about a bird eating. The spider doesn't know about the bird digestive cycle, doesn't know anything about that. It's operating on instinct. So if it does what its instinct tells it to do and sits in the middle of it, that spider will be protected. It's astonishing. Well, some spiders don't look like that at all. Some of them look like crabs. Or how about one that looks like a little beetle? Or even one that looks like a termite. And sometimes these things can even give off the same odor as the creatures they're walking among, so the creatures don't even know there's danger among them. Now, there's all kinds of spiders, all kinds of things. Let's start wrapping it up because I want to show you how beneficial spiders are. There was a study done in England and Holland quite a number of years ago that determined that outside in the summertime, in just your yard or in the woods or whatever, on average there's about 110 spiders per square yard. Now, if you go look in the grass every square yard, are you going to see 110 spiders? No, probably not, because many of them are going to be very small. And in some cases, there's even a lot more than 110. But anyway, on average, 110 spiders per square yard. So they tried to figure out how many spiders there would be in Holland where they can live. Spiders can't live on a tar road, for example. They have to be woods or fields or whatever. So there's 36 billion square yards in Holland. So if you take 36 billion square yards where spiders could live, multiply that by 110, that means there's about 5 trillion spiders that live in Holland alone, if that number is accurate. Now, let's figure out how much spiders eat. The same group tried to figure out how much a spider eats. They figured out using a Panamese wheel spider, which is a good-sized spider. It's about half the size of that one. So they could actually measure the weight of how much a spider eats. Spiders typically cannot eat solids because they have these little cilia or these little hairs at their mouth. Spiders have a one-way stomach pump so that when they catch a creature and they sting it, they put their mouth up to it and they start their pump and the little hairs filter out the solids and they basically eat liquid. Anyway, spiders eat about 0.0031 ounces of bug food per day. Well, let's pretend that all spiders are that size that live in a square yard. That would mean the spiders in 1 square yard would eat about 1/4 of a pound of bug food per day. Now, temporarily, let's imagine that all spiders are that size. Then we'll get real and we'll show what actually is the case. The spiders of Holland would therefore eat, if all the spiders were that size, would eat 936.6 million pounds of bug food per day. Now that might not say anything to you. You might say, well, how much weight is that? All right, let's convert it to people. Let's just say that the average person weighs 150 pounds. I weigh more than 150 pounds. You kids weigh less. So let's just say the average person weighs 150 pounds. If you take 936 million pounds divided by 150, that means the spiders of Holland alone would eat over 6 million people per day in equivalent bug food. Now, somebody might say, okay, wait. The spiders of Holland are not all that size. No, they're not. So let's take that 6 million. Somebody might say, I think the spiders of Holland are only 1% the size of the Panamese wheel spider. Okay, that still means that the spiders of Holland would eat 62,000 people per day. Most people would say, no. I don't even think the spiders are that big. I think the spiders of Holland are only 1,000th the size of the Panamese wheel spider. Now you've made all the spiders of Holland so small, you basically need a magnifying glass to see them. That still means, and those spiders are eating all the time, that still means the spiders of Holland would eat over 6,000 people per day in equivalent bug food. Now let's think about the terms of the rest of the world. Let's look at a map of the world. Let's remove all the cold regions. Let's remove all the deserts. Let's remove all the high mountain ranges. And let's remove all of southern Africa, another 1 million square miles just for good measure. then the rest of the landmass is more or less where spiders could live. Now, let's look at Holland. Holland is a tiny dot right there. You probably can't even see it, but you might be able to see my little laser dot. The laser dot is right there. It's about the same size as the dot on the map. Holland represents 1/2000th of the rest of the land around the world. So let's calculate it out. If the spiders of Holland could eat 6,000 people in equivalent bug weight, multiply that by the rest of the world then, the spiders of the rest of the world could eat about 12 million people per day in equivalent bug food. Now, somebody might be criticizing us and say, oh, I don't even think they're anywhere near that. It's only 1/10 that. Even if it was only 1/10, that means the spiders of the world are eating the equivalent weight of over 1 million people per day in equivalent bug food. Guys, do you realize how beneficial spiders are? They're eating a whole lot of bugs every night. If we didn't have the spiders out there, you and I would never be able to go outside on a beautiful day. The spiders would be in your face, your hair, your eyes, they'd be everywhere. The bugs that you see during the daytime are the lucky ones that survived the night before, or the ones that basically just hatched that morning and hatched that day. Well, there are a couple dangerous ones in America. The one is the black widow. And again, I've not known anybody who's ever died from one, even though the bite is painful. These guys do not make a nice web. They make a three-dimensional cobweb, and then bugs kind of bounce around in there and the spider can catch them. These guys are small, but so are these guys. These are the brown recluses. I think you probably have them in your area. So people have said they've moved into Pennsylvania too. That hasn't been confirmed, but they are essentially in the south. And these are also known as violin spiders, or down there they're called fiddler spiders, because if you look at the front of the cephalothorax, there it looks like a violin right there, where you see that line going around. That looks like a violin. There is a brown recluse mimic spider that looks just like it. The only way you can tell the difference is by counting the eyes, because the mimic has the standard 8-eye pattern of a spider. If you look at the eyes of a brown recluse, they only have 6 eyes in groups of 2, 2, 2, and 2. So it looks like kind of like the front of an airliner. And the only way you can tell that is by getting a magnifying glass and getting down and looking close. I don't know how many of you want to do that with a brown recluse, but in any event, these guys, if you get bitten by one, these guys will produce somewhere on your body where you get bitten, will produce some sort of a bullseye. Typically, and I've interviewed a lot of people who've been bitten by these guys, they typically have something wrong with their bodies during the daytime. One person said, all I did was sweat all day. Another person said, my joints ached. Another person said, I felt like I had the flu. Everybody has different responses to them, but where the spider bites, you will see a bullseye like this. So if you ever feel sick and you see a bullseye pattern, go to the hospital. They can't treat it. There's no antidote for it. There's nothing you can do. But what you can do is they can clean it out. But if you don't, it can destroy local tissue. It is a cytotoxin, so it usually works on the flesh around where the bite was. But it can be nasty if you don't get it treated. But that's what a brown recluse can do. Now, those are the only 2 dangerous ones, you might say, in the United States. To conclude, let me just show you probably one of the most fascinating things about spiders is their ability to spin silk. Spiders have spinnerets at the back of their body divided into several different banks. In each spinnerets are many, many, many tiny, tiny faucets or little spigots. Each one of them ejects silk. Depending on what the spider wants to do, it will change the chemical structure so that the strands, if it wants to make an anchor line, all of the silk coming out of all the spinnerets will come into this huge rope and spin around in a circle, making the strongest substance known to man. If they want to make a sheet to subdue a creature, all the strands basically stick together this way. Instead of wrapping in a coil to make a strong line, they'll stick together this way. And that way, as the spider pulls it out, it's a sheet, and it can just start wrapping it around the creature. It's amazing the spider knows to do that and exactly how to operate its chemical system on board. And it's colored this way so you can actually see it. This is anchor line, hugely magnified. And you can see why it's so strong, because it's like a tightly coiled spring, and it's very, very stretchy. It's a lot more stretchy. It's 10 times more stretchy than steel, and it's a lot stronger than steel. In fact, if you look at power lines or some sort of lines that are out there that carry cables, you have to put the towers up to maybe 300 feet apart, 100 to 300 feet apart, and the cable always sags between the lines, between the towers. Why does it sag? Because the metal has weight. If you put the towers too far apart, the weight is too much for the integrity of the metal, and it will break under its own weight. So you have to put the towers close enough together that it doesn't break. So metal can only be suspended maybe 100 to 300 feet. If you could make spider silk the same thickness as the metal inside those lines, you could put the towers 35 miles apart. It's that strong. In fact, spider silk is so strong that if you could make it just the thickness of a pencil and stretch it out across the sky, it is so strong that it can literally stop a Boeing 747 in full flight. That is astonishing. Well, the world of spiders, it's only a tiny, tiny look. This is the video that's back there. This is just a tiny, brief look into their world. And it's much more than this. If you did a study just on spiders alone, it could occupy the rest of your life. It is so vast a subject. This just hopes to get you to understand how incredibly they're designed, how incredibly they operate, and what incredible allies they are to us. They are some of the nature's best architects when building webs, and they are huge allies of ours. So, next time you see a spider in your house, are you going to gush it? Yeah, probably. But when you're outside and you see spiders outside in your yard, you might just want to let them alone, because they are doing an incredible job for you that God designed them to do. All right, that's all we're going to take time for to look at spiders tonight, and I'll turn it back over to Pastor.
So the amazing thing is that God created all that, and what we've been emphasizing is that the designer, God, designed all of this. And if you are looking at it from an evolutionary perspective and you try to say, well, this just came about, the more you study it, the more you realize that it just won't work that way. And if you have questions about that, make sure you talk to Mr. Snavely tonight and get more information. Well, thank you. It was good, informative, and very helpful. Let's go ahead and stand together, and we'll pray, and then we will be dismissed. Father in heaven, we're grateful for the opportunity to meet, and we thank you for giving us a glimpse into the world that you have made. And Lord, you have again said that if we look at this world, we will know that there is a God. And so I thank you that you've given us this opportunity to look deeply into a particular aspect of that world. And Lord, help us to recognize who you are and to have a right impression of you. We pray in Jesus' name, amen. Thank you. You